Hello and welcome to the 8th episode of Chatting Change. I'm your host Charlie Ashby. This week we're joined by our guest Bethany Vovargue, who is the Operations Manager for NOVUS. Hi Bethany, how are you?
Hi, I'm really good, thanks.
So how's your week been? Has it been alright?
We've had a super busy week this week. Yesterday we got together our sponsors at 8 universities and we heard from some young professionals working or soon to be working in supply chain for their third year placement. So really exciting to hear from them about what makes a good placement and what they're hoping for out of their future careers in logistics. So quite an inspirational day, but heavy on the organisation. So always a bit tiring, but worth it when you get to the end.
Exactly, yeah. At least you get something really positive out of all the hard work.
Definitely. Everybody goes away with a good feeling.
That's good then. I guess my first question to you would be, what is NOVUS?
We are part of the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport, CILT for short, which is the body that represents anybody working in logistics, the movements of goods, and also the transport arena, so the movement of people. We really stand for applied industry relevant education. So we work across 8 universities' undergraduate courses in business, logistics, ops management, supply chain. And we work with the students on those courses to give them all of the industry relevance that we possibly can. So paid placements, site visits, mentoring, guest lectures, any time that we can get an industry professional in front of our young people and emerging talent, that's what we're trying to do, so that of course at the end, after those 4 years, they come out and really hit the ground running, they're work ready and working in the supply chain field. That's of course not to say that you can't work in supply chain or logistics and be a history grad or a geography grad or not even a grad at all. We are saying that we believe that represents really good value for money for the sponsoring companies to be able to have somebody who has a knowledge of supply chain, has probably got at least 12 months worth of experience. It can be anything really up to 18 months if you factor in all of the placement opportunities, that they will then reduce that time to value for a business, hit the ground running, and ideally be the supply chain professionals of the future. That's our aim.
It's quite a great goal to look for, and I guess
try our best.
Yeah, I guess one of the inspiring things about that is kind of, especially like universities, there's a lot of, obviously you put all the hard work in, but sometimes there might not be like a placement for you somewhere. But what you guys offer is sort of someone to look up to in terms of whether it's a guest lecturer, and then also have the opportunity for them to show their skills off.
Yeah, definitely. So we guarantee our students a placement with one of our sponsoring companies. So that is a really powerful message to say how much the profession is investing in their future. I think it's very easy to go to university and do a traditional 3-year degree with no work experience, a lot of reading, and to come out very knowledgeable and very well educated. But in terms of the practical applied nature of that learning, that's then slightly intangible, shall we say. Whereas with NOVUS and the commitment through our sponsors, it means that we can really deliver on that promise to make them work ready, deliver on the promise of a guaranteed third year placement, and make sure that these students feel that logistics is a really good fit for them, meaning that they're then more likely to stay in the profession for years to come.
Yeah, I suppose they get the best of both worlds then, so you get the knowledge and also the experience.
Yeah, definitely, and it's paid.
So, even better.
Yeah, we're not after any free work experience. It's all paid opportunities over the summer as well if students choose to work over the summer. And yes, no cost to the students, no cost to the university. Our sponsors put in their sponsorship, which covers our running costs and our marketing costs. And other than that, of course, under CILT, we are a not-for-profit. So it means that we can really invest that sponsorship back in getting the students out on site visits and all the good stuff that gives them as much experience of logistics as possible.
And speaking of that, I guess my second question would be, how difficult is it recruiting the next generation of supply chain professionals?
Difficult. We are very passionate about it, and any logistician will tell you what a great profession this is to work in. But of course, the average 16 to 18-year-old, never mind any younger, probably hasn't got a great awareness of what logistics is. And if there is an awareness, it's often more at the pejorative end. So dare we say the KFC chicken crisis is perhaps their only awareness of logistics. At a wider scale, of course, that means that a lot of people involved in young people's education, so not only teachers but parents, careers advisors, etc., their perception of logistics is that it's trucks and sheds, it's driving and warehouse roles, maybe picking and packing. Again, horror stories of people being asked to work unreasonable hours, or people being asked to work at speed in warehouses, and being very much under the watchful eye of targets and things like that. That is absolutely a facet of our profession, and I'd be lying if I said it wasn't. But that's not where we hope that our students will go to. So trying to enthuse a 16 to 18-year-old, even younger, trying to enthuse parents, teachers, that supply chain represents fast-paced, well-paid, exciting careers, and paint logistics as a preferred profession is a very hard sell against accountants, doctors, teachers, the traditional professions. That's our challenge, and one that we hope to rise to, but of course we'd like to see more numbers.
Do you think that's a difficulty in the terms of, like, obviously you have to get the message out about logistics, and that there isn't, or is it as well the media, the way that, like you said, some stories that come out, like the KFC story or the dreaded Brexit word?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, the one thing that, if there is one thing that Brexit's done particularly well, it's got the word logistics in the media. Not that I'm necessarily thanking it for that, but it has been good to talk about some of those challenges. I think absolutely both of those things. It's getting it out in front of young people, and when logistics isn't on the curriculum, in any great sense, a little bit on the business studies curriculum, but not in any great detail, that it's really difficult for young people to get that hook, to get that interest, to think, I'm going to go away and find out more. You know, we don't know what we don't know, so why would you start looking for it? That's a real challenge. And I think in terms of the media, absolutely, there's no, Richard Branson or Karen Brady of the logistics world. We don't have a figurehead. We have some great people doing good jobs well, but in terms of that getting into the public eye, that's really difficult to say, I want to become the next Richard Branson or Karen Brady. We hear generic business. They are business people. It would be great to be saying, I want to be a logistician, and that means that we've got to have those role models sharing what they do well. Ideally, it's always nice to have a little bit of coverage in films, always makes it look quite sexy. That's always nice, because we are the product of all of the things that we can pull together, and if we're not seeing it out there, then we don't know that it's an option for us. So many people then fall into logistics at a later date, having found out it's a function. Because, we're not going into supermarkets every day and going, my goodness, isn't this well stocked? We just take it for granted. So until we can be shouting about why it's a great profession to work in, those challenges will be there. And certainly the lack of it being on the curriculum and the lack of coverage in the media in a positive way is absolutely contributing to that.
Yeah, it's funny, like, before I started this job, I barely knew anything about logistics.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say that I'm any terms, like, I know a bit more now, obviously I've done my research, but it's actually fascinating how much we rely on it and how it's like the sort of the unsung hero of.
It's what keeps Great Britain moving. And I think, again, we're very much looking trucks and sheds there. Of course, there's humanitarian aid, which is a huge function in all kinds of different situations, whether that's a wartime situation or a natural disaster, massive role played by logistics there, because it's about getting things to the right place at the right time in the right quantity, and of course at speed. The military has a very wonderful logistics function that covers things like, yes, the physical logistics, the physical movement, but also things like catering. So that's part of the logistics sphere in the military, because of course it's all of the things that keep the troops mobilised, of which that is one. Fuel again comes under logistics. So it really is a wide spread of careers outside of trucks and sheds, including trucks and sheds, if that's your passion. But there are plenty of other things to do that we just have no awareness of, because it all happens behind the scenes, and we take our journey of a Amazon Prime or a John Lewis parcel, we take that for granted. And a lot of the dance that goes on behind the scenes in terms of the timings, the quantities, the stock, the purchasing, they're the bits that we never see.
Okay, so now that you've got some students involved and they're interested in the topic, what can the industry do to retain these individuals in the field?
That is a really good question. I think one of the challenges that not only logistics is experiencing, but of course the world of employment in general, is of course we're now looking at a different generation coming into the workplace. So millennials, that kind of 1980-ish, and then Gen Z coming up fast behind them, Gen Y, of course, now looking at jobs. And that's very, very different, a different style of work to how our parents and our parents' parents might have wanted to work. Gone are the days where everybody wanted one job for life and a gold watch at the end of it. It's not that stable anymore. People don't have those opportunities, even if they did want them. So that's a real challenge. I think if we look at that millennial cohort, which is 81 to 95, so the real emerging talent coming into the first couple of years of management at the moment, they're a lot more entrepreneurial. They want to work with a company rather than for a company, which is a real mentality shift from I've been here a really long time, so I'm your boss. It's a huge age range. So what works for somebody at the bottom end might not work for somebody at the top end. So it's about trying to think about what makes a workplace more attractive for everybody working in it, but considering those particularly millennial traits like communication, digital, making sure that collaboration's there as part of the culture, and fundamentally giving them a job in which they can make a difference, to fill that middle management gap that we're seeing in logistics at the moment.
So it's kind of trying to move the times while also, keep the balances out.
You can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. So inevitably, when you start these conversations, at some point somebody says flexible working. Absolutely nothing wrong with flexible working, but in a 24/7 logistics operation, sometimes you need a person in a place at a time, and that time has to be fixed. What it's more about is saying, well, are we actually putting in best working practices to allow a level of flexibility rather than flexible working? So time off for doctor's appointments, dentist appointments, family leave, are all of those things part of a business? And if not, is that making, the addition of that, is that they're making it more attractive to a millennial who's less about work-life balance and more about life and that contributing in different ways, work and personal. So yeah, it's absolutely not a case of how do we bend over backwards to change everything. It's how do we make working practices a little bit more modern to benefit everybody, really. I can't think of anybody that would say, oh no, I don't want that. But certainly the the age group that's coming into the workplace at the moment does have different expectations.
And talking about moving with the times and like looking to the future, do you think that there's a gender disparity when it comes to recruiting, or is this changing with times?
I think I know there are definitely fewer women in logistics than in other professions, and I know that it's certainly well below where our stats would like to be. I sit on the steering committee for a group called Women in Logistics, again another part of CILT, and we work to connect, engage and inspire women working in logistics to make sure that they feel that they can put themselves forward for board level roles, which is again really traditional male environment, to make sure that they feel that they've got a network of support if they are only one or two ladies in a particular facet or function of a business. So absolutely more to be done, but pleasingly we are seeing a really good percentage of ladies coming through onto our undergraduate courses, which is great. I've met some fantastic female apprentices. So the word is getting out that logistics has got something to offer for all genders, but it will take time, of course, until that gender gap gets a little bit closer to 50-50. And again, some of the working practices that we've talked about, that will only serve to support that. Do we always have to be in the office? Is there something that can be done around a level of home working, perhaps for new mums, those returning to work? So plenty of new ways of thinking and different ways of looking at it that, again, will benefit women, of course, but hopefully will benefit the workplace as an entirety.
Do you think that the disparity, is it just logistics? Like, is there a specific reason why logistics isn't doing as well as other industries, or is it just like a industry-wide thing? There's different professions that obviously have it the other way around. Teaching, nursing, both hugely female-dominated professions. I think logistics at the truck end. Let's take the drivers as a really big example. Its facilities is one of the biggest challenges. If you are I do know some female truck drivers, although they are few and far between. I think the stats are 2% perhaps in the UK. It might even be less than that, to be honest. The Road Haulage Association and the Freight Transport Association do some fantastic studies, and yeah, we're never looking at 50%, put it that way. A lot of it is making sure that those facilities are there to be able to feel like it's a job that you would want to do. So staying on drivers, take truck stops. Are they well lit? Do they have a ladies' bathroom? Does that ladies or a gender neutral bathroom? Does that bathroom, ladies or gender neutral, have facilities for ladies who are on their period? If not, how can how are you supposed to be out on the road? Can you get healthy meals? And I'm not saying that that's a particularly female trait, but without the augmentation of those services, it just becomes at best a job that you don't necessarily want to do. At worst, an unsafe job to do if you're 24-hour operation and you're driving at night and you've not got somewhere well lit to be and safe to be. So I think there's the kind of health and safety considerations of the profession. There's the fact that it has historically been a male orientated environment, in which case that then becomes the norm. So that takes a little bit of a mindset change, which is what Women in Logistics is trying to do. And because, as we've talked about, it is often a 24/7 operation, there hasn't always been the flexibility for
new mums perhaps to return to work on more flexible contracts. That is absolutely changing, but we've got a long way to go before we are perhaps considered a profession of choice, to be able to get us to more ladies working in logistics.
It's interesting that you were talking about how, like, there's certain things that aren't set up for women, like you said about, like, if some women are on the periods, there isn't sort of the, like a bathroom for them to use. Exactly, yeah. And I guess nobody really thinks about that. It's usually just oh well, they don't want to do this particular job, but actually when everything's stacked up against you, it's kind of like you don't want the industry doesn't want you to be part of that when that's not the case.
We have a huge driver shortage. I'm just looking at the RHA, which is the Road Haulage Association. RHA stats: women comprise of less than 8% of the transport and logistics workforce. Less than 2% of HGV drivers are women. So that said, transport needs to employ over 1 million more people by 2020. Where are we going to get them from? By not making it attractive profession to women, we are ruling out half of the potential talent pool. I think we don't always think about what we don't experience. So if some of these, I'll take accessibility as a good example. If there are no people who experience need to have their accessibility needs met on a town planning panel, why would anybody think about accessibility if that's not what they've been encouraged to do? We have come out of a very male orientated profession. A lot of our senior people are chaps, so if we're looking at policy decisions or practical operational decisions, there isn't necessarily a chap that's saying, well, have we considered the needs of menstruating women? Possibly not. I mean, we are getting there. We are, that's not me being rude and saying that we don't have some more enlightened people of all genders in the profession. But historically, that may be where this has come from. And then, of course, that's meant it's not necessarily an attractive profession. There's lots of ways in which we can make it better for people of all ages, genders, ethnicities, etc., but it requires a diverse team to get together and look at what some of the barriers are at the moment.
Of course, yeah, like you said, like, people are changing, and it's not just this industry, it's loads of different, it's just society in general, I would imagine.
Yeah, definitely.
It's catching up on itself. And speaking of, like, again, like, pushing forward a few more years, I guess my last question for you would be, where do you see the industry in 5 years' time?
That is really exciting, and the most exciting thing about it is we just don't know. So I'm recruiting students at the moment for next year's entry who will have jobs that we haven't even thought about yet. And that is hugely exciting. That makes logistics a great place to work. We're definitely seeing, of course, again, a popular media story, which hashtag Gatwick. We're seeing the drone technology, which has good applications too. We're seeing some fantastic stuff inside of warehouses as well. It's not necessarily all about drone delivery. That is definitely exciting. But things like using drones in warehouses as the eyes and even ears in some cases, taking people out of that environment means you don't need to have lights on. How much of an energy saver is that? I mean, from a sustainability perspective, we're really starting to hit some great targets. It's the innovation around all of this that allows logistics to be so exciting, fast-paced. That pace of change is amazing. And I think as we move towards more automated driving, automated warehousing, driverless trucks, potentially, drone delivery, and the possibilities are endless with new technology. We're going to see more highly skilled individuals choosing logistics as a preferred profession. We need them to be dealing with the the technical side of things, the planning side of things as well, of course. And that represents a really exciting opportunity for our young people who are looking to start their careers. So, yeah, I guess short answer, more automation. But who knows? And that's both very terrifying in some cases when we're trying to make sure our teaching's really relevant. But absolutely a really valuable thing for a young person to be hearing, that they get to shape the future.
So you think that disruptive technology is a good thing pushing forward?
Yes. I think there are definitely some challenges. I am coming at it from the graduate end of things, and that is exciting. I imagine it is less exciting if you are working in a warehouse and potentially feel that you may be replaced by robotic technology. So I don't take anything away from the fact we've definitely got challenges, and there will be people for whom that challenge is exceptionally acute, and possibly represents a threat to the job that they may have been doing for a long time. But in terms of inspiring young people to come into the profession, which is what my raison d'etre is, it is a good thing, and it's starting to get logistics looked at very differently. We're starting to go away a little bit from the Ginsters pasty in a Shell service station to a fast-paced world of what might it look like, and that challenge to a young person to get to shape that future is exactly what our young people want to be getting their teeth into.
So, yeah, like you said, so it's now in the face of futurism.
Yeah.
Well, that's really exciting, and I'm glad that we had you on to talk about it, and the job you're doing to get people excited and involved is amazing. So thank you. Unfortunately, though, that's all we have time for this week. Thank you, Bethany, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Where can people find you online to discuss these matters further?
I would recommend heading to either the NOVUS website, which is www.novus.uk.com, I can't even spell my own company name there. Can you tell? Long night. Novus. Novus means new and exciting, I'm told, in Latin. Or you can find me on social media. Something that I definitely can spell is my surname. So if you put Bethany Vovargue, Fovargue, you will definitely get me. And there's not very many of us about. So you should definitely be able to find me. And as you can tell, it's a subject that I'm happy to talk about at length.
Amazing, thank you. As always, we want to thank both the University of Northampton's List Institute and Societal for helping create this podcast. You can find them on Twitter. Societal is at societal_, and the uni is at Uni4Logistics, as well as Facebook and LinkedIn. To find out more about us via our website, go to www.societal.org.uk. Thank you for listening. We'll be back soon.